So we are recording in this room, the session. So just to let you know, we're not recording video, and we're recording the slides. So if you talk up, your voice will be recorded. So not your likeness. So on that note, again, this is Information Engaged Outreach. Today is September. No, it's not September anymore. It's October 3rd, 2024. And please welcome our presenters. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you for coming to Inform, Engage Outreach, promoting resource sharing tools and other services in an academic library. Hi, I am the fabulous Iris Lee.
Hello, I'm Tammy Rimpsey.
You need to hit this.
Oh. What happened?
It's not.
Oh, good. Because I clicked on other things. There, yeah.
As Tammy and I have little ILL experience, just over 2 years, one might wonder how it is that we are speaking at a resource sharing conference. Why we would not call ourselves seasoned resource sharing veterans, we know a lot about interacting with students and explaining library services to students in an academic library. Tammy has been very active in promoting our library and its services via social media and planning and creating promotional events for several years. We knew that outreach and promotional events can be used to demonstrate and inform students to use library services. Once we were charged with managing resource sharing, we figured promotions could work for resource sharing too. Our goal is to share what we've learned and to learn from others. Hopefully, we can inspire someone to try promotions in support of resource sharing at other institutions. Okay, a little bit about our backgrounds. Tammy and I have worked together for 18 years, running the busiest service desk in our library. In addition to circulation, over the years, we have also managed all shelving, updating print legal publications, opening and closing the library, filing microfiche, and various other tasks in a busy public services department that is staffed 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. I am the head of Access Services at the George Washington University Jacob Burns Law Library. I have a Master's of Library Science and a law degree. I just celebrated my 25th anniversary at GW this fall. Before coming to my current employer, I worked at 2 other law schools as a reference librarian and also as a circulation/reference librarian. I also have a few years of experience working at law firms in New York and DC as a library assistant. In addition to Access Services, I also participate in reference desk rotation. I have faculty liaison assignments, and I supervise the Library Reference Fellows, which is a group of student workers, of law students, that we've hired to do, let's call it reference triage. Tammy is the Access Services Manager. Tammy recently earned a Master's of Business Administration. She focused on marketing and customer service. Before coming to GW Law Library, she was a manager at a library staffing agency for many years. She is also the owner of a party planning business. Among her many duties, Tammy spends lots of time working at the circulation desk, supervising students that man the circulation desk, door guard stations, and she is our course reserve empress. 6 or 7 years ago, Tammy elbowed her way onto the library's meager social media and marketing committee. Once there, she executed a plan to rescue the group from its lack of action. She eventually became chair of the committee, now called the Library Outreach Committee. As chair, she breathed life into a previously uninspired group of non-social media users. You may wonder, why were they on this committee since they're not social? Yeah, that came up lots. Her creativity and knowledge of event planning have helped the library lead the law school in developing engaging and creative, impactful promotions and outreach to students. A little over 2 years ago, I was asked to take over the interlibrary loan department when a colleague left for greener pastures. Greener, yeah. Tammy joined the interlibrary loan team to supervise the one-woman awesome team we have in that office. So, okay, thank you. Although we didn't know much about ILL, we had many years of interaction with students at some of the library's main service points. In addition to circulation and door guard desk, we are the help people for the print stations. And before the print stations, it was copier maintenance. So, you know what that's like. During the pandemic, we were the only department that remained on site for probably the first 8 or 9 months.
Essential.
Essential, yes. On site, essential on site. So reference librarians may get to help students with high-level thinking about complex research issues, but the circulation desk is the front line of service. At the circ desk or the door guard station, one gets to regularly help students with a vast array of issues. All things library are asked at our desks. We have learned that students and other patrons can struggle to grasp what services the library office offers and to keep the services separate and to understand which benefits go with which service. And of course, they cannot follow directions. We had a good understanding of how very smart people frequently need help understanding or remembering the simplest things. So we get asked several times a day, what time does the library close today? 11:45 every night. You know, this turnstile keeps stopping whenever I come. I can't get in. Tap your ID. I'm sorry, I don't have my ID. I lost it. You need $25. Go to the student center and get a new one. So that's our background. Even though we had no resource sharing experience to speak of, we took on the challenge of ILL and other resource sharing services. Tammy had worked for about 5 weeks in the ILL office at the law school. Yeah. And she about 5 weeks, it was like 8 years ago, 8 years before we started. I had some experience doing ILL in small law firms in Washington, D.C., using a union list and a telephone. Sometimes a friend who worked at a big firm would do an OCLC search for me to let me know who had a book that wasn't in the union list. So, you know, it was the 90s. I did what I could. From our years of experience at the circulation and reference desks, we knew that students were very confused about resource sharing, and especially the options. We heard their questions and observed their confused lips in response to resource sharing issues for many years. And we'll talk more about the confusion later. I thought of ILL office as the best run department in the library when I was offered the opportunity to manage it. The librarian had been in place doing that job for about 18 years, and the frontline staff was also a library veteran. The team was lean and fierce. They had been an OCLC Express librarian for a few years. GW had always been, the law school had always been a net lender. And we also have a fee-based service for law firms and other commercial entities. By contrast, our other department, our previous department, was the largest in the library with a staff that worked 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. Clearly, ILL sounded like a piece of cake to take over. As we start, there we go. Okay. There was an ILL, I'm sorry, back up. As we started learning about the ILL operation, we realized it could be even better. There was a need for students to learn to use services but the office had virtually no public presence and limited communication with patrons. This is a picture of where in the library the ILL office was located.
Dismal.
It was in a sort of English basement, downstairs from the main floor, down a long hallway that was frequently dark, and it's the very last office in the picture. That is indicative of how they interacted with patrons. So there was an interlibrary loan LibGuide that confused everyone, including the reference department. And we also all know that LibGuides are really for librarians. So it didn't really help the patrons a whole lot. The resource sharing staff only communicated with patrons via email. The office did no promotional work to showcase services or educate students about their services. Once we had some resource sharing experience and just a little knowledge under our belts, we started thinking about ways to explain resource sharing options to students. Explaining library services to students is something we had always done, and there was no reason not to do it for resource sharing. And we moved the ILO office out of that back alley. The biggest problem we saw was that our students needed to grasp that there are meaningful differences between our two services. In the beginning, we just wanted them to recognize there were two services: CLS, which is the consortium loan service, and traditional ILL. So CLS is an unmediated local consortium service of the Washington Research Library Consortium, or WRLC. It is very fast, but it only provides print books. Okay, because CLS is known for being fast, students frequently, and because students frequently wait until the last minute to do things, every request is a CLS request for them. Each week I get an error report that tells me which people's CLS requests the system isn't doing anything with. And we're working to get the message out that CLS is only for print books, but there are a few hindrances that students have to overcome. In the catalog, the buttons are almost indistinguishable once you hover over them. There's a dark blue surface that covers, and you can't tell which button you're picking. Students also don't frequently know exactly what they're looking for. They don't know if it's an article, if it's a book, it's something they got to get. That's all they know. Traditional ILL has a reputation for being much slower, which is only part of the story. Delivery of print books are slower than CLS most of the time. So students submit as much as possible to CLS, even if it's not available. But we know as a resource sharing community that ILL speeds have greatly improved. Articles and chapters can be very fast because they're almost always emailed. Books are much faster than they used to be as more schools and more institutions use delivery services beyond book rate UPS delivery. And many of our loans through a traditional ILL come from other OCLC Express lenders. And in fact, our biggest ILL partners are other libraries in our local consortium. And because they're in our local consortium, everyone just delivers through the courier service. So it's very fast and it doesn't cost anybody anything extra. I said earlier that initially we just wanted them to recognize that there were two different services. However, a year into taking over resource sharing, I started receiving a weekly report of failed requests. It was one of those duties that no one realized needed to be transferred to a new person. The report shows me each patron request that did not result in a loan or in a cancellation notice going to the patron. The problem with this report is that it comes out once a week. I get it, I go in it, I see how many patrons I need to contact, and then I have to tell them where the material is. You have to request this through ILL, or I do document delivery and I send it to them. Some requests fail because of patron errors, like they don't know what resource it is, or they just submit it to the wrong system. Others are ones that are caused by lenders. It just gets lost somewhere in their system. Somebody starts working on it, it just gets dropped. So now the big problem that we want to resolve is the submission of requests to the wrong service, because getting a request can be significantly delayed if the request has to wait until I get the report and I move it, or I email the patron, or I myself can do it as document delivery. For students, saving time is always a benefit because many of them start too late. But if students continue with a CLS default, their time is wasted. So a request that might take a few days through CLS will end up taking 2 or 3 weeks once it gets moved.
That brings up the question of how do we help them to understand the difference between what our consortium service offers and that of interlibrary loan. First, we listed the information we thought was pertinent to the students and broke it down into layman's term and not library jargon for clearer understanding. We then came up with marketing initiatives that highlighted our services and the options that were at their disposal. Finally, we brainstormed ideas that would be informative as well as engaging, and kept into consideration that we were working with a limited budget of none to implement those ideas. As Iris mentioned, we initially used an annual event that our Library Outreach Committee already had in place to capture a larger audience for cost-effective purposes. Cue the flashback music. The year was 2019, and it was the library's annual Halloween trick-or-treat event. Departments were asked to pass out candy to students, and we decided to also attach pick your potion cards, seen here, to help introduce our students to the choices that they had in requesting books, either CLS or ILL. We realized that the notion was rather confusing to the students, so we wanted to highlight the fact that they had 2 resource sharing service options available to them when retrieving books from other libraries, and they just needed to make a choice. It didn't hurt that our library director is a huge fan of Halloween, and we could get him to approve almost anything tied to our Halloween event. A year later, Iris started getting the failed request reports, which helped her to understand more of the problems that the students were running into. Consequently, the next year, we changed the campaign and came up with Learn the Tricks to Get the Treats, seen here. This campaign was more focused and had a more instructional message on making an informed decision. How to get a treat, your requested item, instead of a trick, which is a failed email request. We passed out bookmarks, again with candy. The front side of the Halloween inspired and the back side explains the difference in CLS and ILL to help them in selecting the best option for their request. To reinforce our initiative of helping students differentiate the options, as you can see here, we branched out to another holiday for our next campaign by giving out Learn to Love CLS and ILL Valentine's Day cards and candy. See, side note, not a bad idea to incorporate candy when dealing with students. For this initiative, we focused once again on explaining the best practices for each lending service and the rules students needed to know to pick the correct lending service, all while stating that we don't get jealous if you use other libraries. On the back side of the card, we took the opportunity to highlight even more reasons to love the law library and listed non-traditional items that one could check out at the circulation desk. By the spring of 2024, Iris had a very good handle on the problems students were having with resource sharing tools. She spearheaded a promotion that sought to inform, engage, and outreach students to help make a better decision. And Resource Rummy was developed. This was an interactive card game to help patrons understand whether CLS or ILL is the best option. This was done at Lollapalooza, our annual research fair. We set up our table and the students would flip over a card with the request scenario. You can see some card examples here. The students would then decide which service would be the most helpful in that situation to get their resource here the soonest. This was guided by a librarian who would then explain why the choice was correct or not. You can also see in the pictures examples of the cards and Iris working the table. As our campaigns have shown us to be fun and informative for students, we have extended into highlighting of CLS and ILL into our library's marketing plan for the year. The Library Outreach Committee has created a year-long Don't Gamble With series. Each month, we selected a library aspect to highlight. For September, it was Don't Gamble With Your Research. We created another tabling event and reintroduced Resource Rummy, and to keep the theme going, added a new Roll for Resources dice game. One die has types of items needed, and the second die would have the time frame in which the item would be needed. Students would then roll the dice and get a detailed scenario and select which services best suits the need. Of course, we entice them with more candy. Students stopped by and asked lots of questions and were very interested in getting more information. I was able to recreate relationships for future assistants by giving them access to a personal librarian. This tabling event went very well, and we will be redoing it in the next semester. It's a helpful hint as well, because we are in an academic law library, there's a revolving door of students, so there's the opportunity of rotating the themes instead of thinking of one every single time to keep it fresh. We try to do our themes on a 3-year cycle so that the campaigns seem new and exciting to the current students. This year, we have plans to work into CLS and ILL bracket for our Mad Marchness theme Lollapalooza this year. And eventually a Shakespeare themed planned of to ILL or not to ILL. That is the question. But Tammy, I'm not creative, and that's okay. There are a lot of ways that you can come up with enlightening and interesting ideas. You can pair it with other staff members in your library. Bouncing ideas off of coworkers that don't think like you will help you to formulate fresh, diverse, and inventive ways to meet your patrons where they are and to get them where you want them to be. This also brings in multiple perspectives from people with different ages, genders, and backgrounds, allowing you to come up with ideas that can reach a broader audience. Iris and I pair up quite a bit, merging our creativity and our library technicality. Also, don't be afraid to step outside the box. Take themes that are traditionally set for other holidays and events and rework them to put a library-focused spin on them. I've given you examples of how we do Halloween and Valentine's Day, but let's highlight some others. How about St. Patrick's Day? Be lucky with your research, or find your pot of gold in ILL. In November, be thankful we have options of CLS and ILL. This could also help you save money when you're doing seasonal things by able to purchase seasonal items on sale and things like that if you're going to set up a table or display an exhibit case. You can also use movie, music, and TV references to build upon. You had me at ILL. Or, dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to get through this thing called resource sharing. Maybe our students don't understand the purple one, so we'll skip that one. You can use pop culture references and memes. Remember, we're trying to engage our patrons in a society where social media is mainstream for the majority of our students. Think in terms of, in my ILL era. My Swifties, no? Okay, all right. Or be very mindful, very demure, very CLS and ILL. Do you see where I'm going with this? Finally, use what you've got. Schools have mascots, athletic teams, slogans, and popular programs that you can focus a campaign around. Now that you have your plan, let's get into how we can roll it out. You want to make sure that it's cohesive and branded so students will get what you're trying to give them right away. Don't think of branding like the big corporations. Branding is basically the identity that makes you stand out in what you're known for. And nowadays, everything and everyone is a brand. Each marketing campaign you create should encompass the overarching idea of the initiative. Through design, managing, and advertising, you want to deliberately shape the way your patrons perceive and receive this information? What is it that you want them to walk away with? And is it done in a consistent manner that they know it's your library? Your plan needs to be branded through all stages of advertising to create a cohesive, attention-grabbing campaign that your students will come to know you for. Here are some helpful tools and apps that I use that can assist you and make you look like a marketing pro. Pinterest. I love this social media platform. It is formatted for you to search and discover ideas through visual pins. This can help you to explore creative marketing concepts and tweak them to your library's needs. I have used a variety of topics in searching for all of my library outreach endeavors to see what other people have come up with. You can start by simply searching library marketing or academic library events and rework them to fit whatever you're trying to do. Another amazing resource is Canva. This is an easy to use online graphic design tool that makes me look more skilled than I actually am. They have theme templates that you can just customize for your own needs. Lastly, use other social media platforms as well. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, for example. If your library does not have one of these, then you are missing a whole lot of opportunities to reach out to your patrons. I create posts of our marketing initiative, exhibit cases, and bulletin boards. I also do reels and stories of our tabling times and any of our events. And I use it to highlight our rare book collections and things of that nature. I can't reiterate enough how marketing only works if it reaches the people that you need it to. It also helps to make sure that you have your library staff on board with whatever plan you come up with. As the chair of our library outreach committee, I inform the library of our upcoming marketing plans. The key is to help make sure they know how they fit into this. What can they do to push the initiative forward? Can they interact with us on social media? Are they able to assist a student regarding the initiative if asked? Or can they inform us any patron feedback? The last option is one of the ways we can tell if our marketing plan is working. Are the students mentioning it to reference when they're trying to retrieve items? Another way we can tell if our marketing initiative is working is by monitoring our engagement on our social media apps. Are students liking, commenting, or sharing our items? Also, comments and student feedback have always been useful because it gives us firsthand account of how the information is actually perceived. Statistics are also good. We keep attendance and participation numbers at our events. We also see our borrow numbers have risen and we've received less failed requests. Surveys are an option, but they are more work and take time to get approved, distributed, and even more work to do the analytics. These options are great at helping to dictate if you are moving in the right direction, but don't let any of these measuring tools become finite. Sometimes success isn't numbers, but knowledge and ease of the process and the comfort level and familiarity of the resource. Also, don't get discouraged if you're not successful right away. Your first forays may not be successful, but remain consistent. Here you see a picture of Jacob Bear. Yes, Jacob Bear. I created an unofficial mascot for the library, and it was met with, let's say, reservations, to put it mildly. A stuffed animal, this is a law school. Now, Jacob is popular amongst the students, and they love a photo op with him at every one of our events. Remember, if your initiative doesn't gain traction right away, keep pushing your services. Remember that this is helpful for the students, and you are subtly teaching them how the library can help them. Our main goal is to inform, engage, and outreach. I will turn this over to Iris, who will tell you what we've learned through the process. So you're back. No, this one's yours. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna take a second here and make sure we get up to speed. After 13.
Nothing after 13.
There should be something after 13.
Think here's here, here. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. What we've learned. It's very important to keep it fresh. Every year, there are new students on campus to inform about library services, but you also have to tweak your material to keep it fresh for returning students too. Timing is everything. Students don't learn things and they don't even listen to you until they need the resource you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, so we have to look for teachable moments. Consider the academic cycle and develop programs around student academic requirements or events on campus. For example, all law students must write a paper as a graduation requirement. This paper is usually written during one of their last 3 semesters of law school. I pitch a research training session to students who are currently taking a paper course because they are most likely to use resource sharing intelligently. So the event we did in September on Don't Gamble with Your Research, when students stopped at the desk, they got some candy. We also had some keychains. I said, are you taking a writing class this semester? And for the ones who were, I said, well, this is really mainly for you. You need to listen. The other people, they could take a piece of candy. They could take a card. I didn't mind if they walked away because I knew what I was saying was not very relevant to them. Teamwork makes the dream work. I am not artistically inclined. I can come up with a good idea from time to time, but I cannot deliver an eye-catching graphic to promote the idea, however genius it is. I always try to team up with someone with art and crafting skills to work on a project. One frequent partner of mine is referred to as the art department. Tammy doesn't have a law degree or an MLS, so we often brainstorm on how to make her idea work for law students. Be your own cheerleader. Go with your idea, even if others don't buy into the vision right away. Tammy showed you Jacob. Is he not adorable?
Yes.
And yet, I will tell you, saying that her idea was met with reservations is putting it mildly. There was quite a lot of eye rolls from the other members of her committee. Giveaways work. Candy and pizza may not be good for students, but they're effective to draw attention and participation. Giving out informational cards with candy or making students listen to a 2 or 3 minute pitch for a ticket to get pizza really works. Look for sponsorship from vendors and local businesses that cater to students. One vendor can buy coffee for the event. Another might donate a gift basket, and 2 or 3 others can contribute to pay for the pizza.
This has been a lot of work, but enlightening and fun. Watching what we have created become helpful to the students has been a joy. It is a huge bonus that it is working and that the library management now supports our commission efforts.
Working on marketing has given Tammy a way to use more of her gifts and talents on the job. Without adding this aspect to her job, she may have left us upon mastering her circulation duties years ago in a position that provided far fewer opportunities for creative expression and growth.
We are now open for questions if anyone has any.
So you're talking about your CLS and your ILL. But then you're only doing your document delivery when you get a failed request. Are you offering that as a service, or are you going, hey, guys, you're in law school, you need to be going out and finding more resources that we have in the library? What is it?
So we do document delivery a couple of ways. We use Tapasa, and we can do document delivery requests via PASA. And so, and this is what our champion ILL staff member, she gets them, she sees we have this, she switches it over to document delivery, it gets counted in our statistics in CAPASA. When I get the failed requests, I have to, one reason to get the students to use the right service is to save my time. Because when I get the failed request Monday, I spend like an hour and 45 minutes straightening out requests that people had. So I usually go back, I recreate the search of what they were looking for. I try to figure out, why did they look for it here? Who told them this was possible to get? Now I realize it doesn't matter who told them. They just submit. So I frequently, like this week, I found of the 4 requests, 3 of them I was able to fulfill via document delivery. 2 of those, I sent the article. A third one, I can't remember the reason, but I was like, the link, I think they just need a link. I don't want to download this thing. Sometimes my choice of how to send it to them is based on, am I on campus or am I at home? How much stuff do I want to download to my computer, which is hanging together. God help me, because let it hang up together a little longer. So, but I do always provide something to them. For the ones that it's a book, it wasn't an article, I tell them they get an email that says, this is not available in CLS. You can only get a print book. Please resubmit your request as an ILO request. And then there's a link in the note that says, here's a way to get help. This is how you get to the ILO page, or go to the reference desk for assistance. So that's kind of built in.
And I'm gonna chime in, we do a lot of handwriting, that's what I'm gonna say.
Our teachable moments. So it's not just, our library does not allow us to just tell them that this is how you should have done it, go do it.
Yeah.
We will teach them while helping do it. So the next time that they need it, they'll be able to use it the right way, but we're gonna handhold them and get them what they need this time by pulling them along with us.
Yeah, GW is a private school. It's extremely expensive.
We
God
do a lot-
forbid.
we do a lot of-
And law school patrons push back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they do. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, and the ones that I sent them, the PDF, I said, oh, yeah, you couldn't get this through CLS because it's not a print book. But I found that our library subscribes to a database which contains this article. I give them a link and then I say, which I have attached for your convenience. Have a great day.
Right.
So they have some knowledge. I could have found this. Sometimes they don't find it
Right.
because our links are janky, to be kind. So, there are lots of things that they should, when they click on the thing that says available online, it should open right up for them, and it does not. So for those people, I absolutely send them the item. Sometimes it could take me a good 5 to 7 minutes to really get to the real stuff, but I absolutely send to them because I feel like that's not their fault in any way. Any other questions?
So I'm kind of in the same boat on this, because it's all of it too, and I'm managing, and some of the other stuff that is in there. And I'm curious, something about question category, but initially when you started to advertise all this and make all this.
Absolutely not. She is a saint.
Yeah,
And
she is.
we were so blessed
To have her. She was very helpful, and I said, I really need you to tell me if you see red flags or reservations for anything that I think about doing, because I don't know. And I don't know, the session before, why are we doing the things we do? I don't know why this was created. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm seeing it with a different pair of eyes. Why do we do this way? Could we do it another way? And then she'll tell me, well, here's the issue, here's why, and I'm like, okay. And I have to really give her a pep. I need you to talk out to me. I need you to say, absolutely not. That's not how this happens. And I was like, okay, so once I got her up there, she could tell me her reaction to whatever I do. She's extreme introvert. I'm not. And that is, I'm gonna try to get it out. I'm gonna be in the lobby telling people, oh, did you get a book? Did you get a book from the library? You know, there's 2 services. I'm gonna tell anyone that will listen, because I think, I say in a world of Google, everyone thinks they're their own library, and they don't think libraries are necessary. oh, well, I don't ever come to the library, or I come in there only to study. And that's sad because we have a whole staff with specific areas of legal expertise that could help you so much if you knew what we could do for you. So it's basically selling what we have. No, it's for budget cuts when they want to start cutting the library. No, see, we're important. See here,
Yeah.
you know, so trying to highlight and coming outside the library at tabling events and other big events we host throughout the school. So the other staff members and the dean that walks by happens to see, oh, our library, they are always on it. And that's, we're trying to change the perception as you need us. Here's why you need us. So everything that we do, we try to highlight in a fun way so the students are on board. We don't need, we love the faculty, but we don't really need the faculty to be on board. They're going to do their own thing and probably not follow a rule on their own. But if we could teach the students, we're here for you, and here's what we can do for you, then we become an asset to them. Possibly they become wealthy and they donate to the library, you know, like.
Exactly.
That's what private school.
Right. I'm thinking, so I really want to tell them that we have services and you don't know about them, and have shame and you should. You know, the library is a full case, you know, that's real. We can get you what you need to know, we can make your grades better, but you have to come to us and not just sit in. So.
Yeah, so I will say, in a rare act of defending our faculty, I have never gotten a failed request from a faculty member. They seem to have it right. So that's really great. Now, if I could only get all of them to actually pick up their interlibrary loans, when they come in, I really wish that I could charge them some nominal fee for not picking them up, because I have some people, when I see their request, I know, go ahead and order it, but they're never gonna pick it because they don't ever pick anything up. But
That's a, but that's maybe for faculty, because we can get requests, they, the people want us to deliver their items, but in library loan,
don't
there's
have
not enough, not enough people, there's not enough money. So it's like, okay, well, yeah, I mean, salary, absolutely. I mean, I'm all for it, but they're gonna, I mean, I can't do with what we got.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I mean, I had one thing, but I had something that in relation to that, which is, I'm Mazzy from the University of Kansas, and it's pretty large. We're very fortunate to have both a trip saver program where we send books directly to your department. So if you
I looked up name.
trip savers, and then we have home loan delivery for anything that's outside of Douglas County, Montgomery County. Yeah.
Not for faculty.
You might, someone might be mad if they don't. But I noticed one thing with our branch library within our system. Some libraries are in the building that department is in,
Yeah.
but they come to us at the interlibrary loan. In the interlibrary loan office, which is in what I think of as the main library, Watson, and they come to our library where we process them, send them right back to that building, back to that department. And so I noticed that's within that becomes a different dumb situation to navigate when you're doing that.
Another waste of time.
Yes, it's another way. I'm so sorry. How do you navigate like doing the actual like work, the resource sharing work with promoting what you do? Like how do you navigate like continuing the workflow and then also doing this stuff? Because I noticed for me, it's kind of like I don't have time.
Well,
Yeah.
we have this committee that helps out. Okay, so everyone does this committee. It's like all volunteer, and you work around, whatever you do in the library for the library outreach. So when we come up with, hey, we want to do this, here's what we need to do, and then we kind of piecemeal it across the library to who's able to do it. And It's not like we have a lot of events throughout the year, a lot of tabling. It may be like one tabling event a month, if that. And what we tend to do is we ask for all hands on deck. Anybody that's available to do a half hour, an hour, or something like that at the desk. Can you take us here to help us out so it's all on all of us? And then you'll get a cataloger and tech services that comes
Down and does an hour, you know, and we give like an instructional sheet, how to answer a question, or have our business cards that you can refer them back. But it does take the team, you know, the team to do everything. So that's one of the things that we do. We don't in our employee that stays in resource sharing and ILL doesn't come out to any of the events. She stays there, so we can always count on someone being in the office when we are not in the office doing stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lollapalooza is one of them.
Yeah. But that's a massive.
She's not a fan.
No, I am a fan. I am a fan of Lollapalooza. Okay, so I'm just gonna say this. I am not on the library outreach committee, although I supported Tammy joining it. I do whatever I can to get the other people in the committee to listen to her. But I will just tell you, this team doesn't do things on a small scale. There is a minimum level of excellence for what they do. And so for me, I'm just like, I just want to get the message out. Do we need all this? Do we have to have this beautiful scenery and background? It all contributes. When the event is done, I'm always like, gosh, this is awesome. But I know how much work goes into it. So you got to start where you are. Not everything was awesome. What is most important? Drawing people in. And whether you do it in the library or you leave the library, is the most important thing is find a hook to get some students to come over and talk to you.
Yeah. Candy.
Candy.
And the reality is, law school students are hurt. So if you're gonna offer them, and we literally, we'll buy pizza, but you just can't have our pizza.
Right.
You have to listen to what we have to say. And we'll give you a ticket, and you can go get your pizza with your ticket.
Yeah.
This, we'll give you 2 pieces of pizza
And a soda if you do this, you know, so. Right, well, we have, right, and then, right, so then we feed you, and that's what stops a lot of people, because they'll walk through and they're like, oh wait, there's food. What do I do to get
I
the
smell
food?
pizza.
You know, and they'll tell you, what do I do to get the food? It's very clear, but the whole point is, we really want people to have this information, and if this has to be the way to do it, I'm the stuff that you really don't care about what I'm saying, but maybe you'll remember it.
Yeah.
And when it's time to use it,
Yeah.
you'll be better off. And they see your face, and then they know you.
Yeah, and then they see us in the someplace else in the library because we are out in front of the patrons. We're not down that dark hallway. And so they remember, oh, I talked to that person and they were helpful and they had something to say. Let me.
You know, hey, such and such told me I should come and talk to you about. I need this book. What do I have to do? But that means it's working. You know, you're passing it on. Go talk to that lady Tammy in the library. She'll get you straight.
Yeah. The other thing is we now have law students working in the library. In the past, we did not hire law students as student workers at all. Now we have them at the reference desk helping and doing triage there. When we have promotional events, we give them extra hours where they can come and sit at the tables to help draw people in and help explain services. They have been good ambassadors. They really have been. Some of the cards that I made up to hand out, I've given them to the students. Oh, could you proofread this for me? At the event this year, one of my student workers went by and I said, oh, come play the game. I know you know the answer. And she was like, yeah, because I proofread that card for you last year. And she's on the law journal, so she's always using resource sharing. And she picked one of the harder cards. She knew the answer right away. There were other people who would come by. I was like, oh, you in journal because you knew this too easy. You know this. So, yes.
Students are great outreach.
Yes. Student workers are great outreach.
But basically, start where you are, do it like, I remember things being so small at first, and every year I said, we don't reinvent the wheel every year. Pick 3 different things and we rotate it, and the students never see it because by the time they finish their 3rd year, they're out of there, we go back to the first one, and then we start all over. So people are never seeing the same thing, but then we look so awesome. We do so much, but it's the same thing.
I'm Sharon from UAB. Our library does promotional, but it's for library-wide stuff. So I like to have something specifically for the item.
Right.
And just like you all, we have 3 locations, but in every building, our locations are behind the scenes.
Scenes, yep.
They do not see us. Their stuff get magically.
Right.
By this little short person, you know, bucket of gold anyway.
Right.
Yeah, and the librarians take the credit for it.
Exactly, exactly.
So I like that idea. I'm going back to that idea.
Right.
I wonder.
Yeah.
Right. But it's really helpful highlighting like a lot of the services in the library reference, that they're the people out front. A lot of times, like for the circulation department,
We're always the mean guys. No, you can't have that. It's overdue. You have a fine. We're always the bad guys. Hate that for us.
Yeah.
We're so nice. So trying to put spin on other departments other than reference.
Yeah.
Even with tech services, I asked them, hey, what can you all do? That lets the students know that you're here ordering books. How do we make that happen? It takes every department to make a library run, not just the pretty faces of reference. So let's get that.
So I just want to say one more thing about, you do need people who know about resource sharing, talking about the services, because when we do either the research rummy or the roll the dice with resources, I've created a cheat sheet that tells people, okay, this is how this works, because really, I'm the only person who really knows how all of these things work, across all the services. Yeah, Rosa, yeah, she will pass out food, but she doesn't want to have to really like back and forth with people. So, because that's not, she got other strengths that we appreciate greatly. I'm sorry, you had a question earlier?
I do. This is my first ever ILO conference.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You talk my language, right? So here's my question. We used to be 24/7 food, but we're not anymore. But when we went 24/7, I had all of my staff. We do shifts. The one thing I hate is like with HR, somebody has taken an annual leave. You don't get her services. She's the only one who does it. That's it. Everybody in my access services department, all 10 of them, do ILS, do our consortium, they do everything.
Everything.
Because everybody.
Okay.
And I love your outreach. So I just have to say that you're reaching a different audience.
Well, see, I was your audience. I came in and I'm like, this is not what I do. I've been in access services for so long. I really think I make over my head and I understand what we're doing.
But students aren't understanding
Yeah,
what we're
yeah.
doing. So let's make this gap smaller.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So here's our contact information. If anyone wants to reach us with more questions, or anything like that, we'd be happy to ask any question or find the answer for you.
We have a couple of people that didn't get stamps.
Okay.
So thank you so much for both of you. That was a great presentation. Really great explanation.
Thank you.
And I have to stop the sharing. Yeah. And I have to stop. Okay, fine.
Slides, yeah.
Yeah, I can send slides.